Dear Mr. Lloyd, please forgive me for not writing sooner. My only excuse is that I've been rather busy getting settled here at Santa Anita. It takes about 1 month to become thoroughly accustomed to this entirely new life. I'll try to explain to you all the important points and events which have taken place since I left Hollywood High. Hi, I'm Darrell Kunitomi. We're here at beautiful Santa Anita Park, the great racetrack. We're here today because my family was kept here in the Assembly Center in early of 1942. This is a few months after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. We were seen as suspicious and dangerous, possibly spies and saboteurs. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, bowing to pressure that was coming from all over, signed an executive order. And what it did was it invalidated the constitutional rights of Japanese Americans like myself. 120,000 people were eventually removed from the West Coast, and their first stop was here at Santa Anita. So my uncle Ted Fujioka, 17-year-old Hollywood High School, LA public school student when the incarceration began in 1942, had an ongoing correspondence with his high school history teacher from Hollywood High. His name was James Lloyd. These letters came from out of the blue. I opened up my email one morning and Kathy Lloyd of San Jose said, "Hey, I think we have a family connection. I don't know you, but I was going through my dad's things and I found these letters written to a Ted Fujioka. Are you related to him?" I said, "Oh my gosh, yes." So there were apparently 9 letters dating from the first month here in Santa Anita to when Ted volunteered for the Army up in Heart Mountain, Wyoming. So this is the very first one. It's dated June 5th, 1942. At the gates, an armored car armed with about 3 machine guns greeted us. I suppose they were placed there for the psychological effect they would have on the new residents. We were registered, given our mess hall buttons, and were taken to our home, a horse stable. Can you imagine? 2 dingy stables greeted us. My mother and sisters just sat down and cried. These are the original barns from the 1930s, and this is where Japanese Americans were held. And at the start, before the barracks were built, which, oh, by the way, covered the whole parking lot, people were in these stalls, like my family. The stalls would hold maybe 3 people, sometimes 4 would squeeze in. They were cleaned up, but they certainly had the smell. Interesting for me is that they remind me a lot of the barracks I've seen at the other camps, the internment camps, the incarceration camps, the relocation camps, the concentration camps as they're called too. This morning we had tasteless spaghetti, white, more like plain boiled noodles, a few pieces of beets, and 1/2 of a pear. Oh yes, there was also bread, but that's all. There are 6 mess halls. Each one serves about 3,000 people. I could write forever about the food, but time as well as stationery doesn't permit. Well, now we're inside here in the main line area, and it looks empty now, but back in the day, this would have been packed with people. There were classrooms in here. There was a mess hall in here, and they had dances in here because they actually had swing bands and swing dancing. The showers, 200 for 18,000 people, are about a half mile away. By the time one gets back from taking a shower, he's ready for another one. So we are in a very interesting structure. This is the receiving barn at Santa Anita, and this is the way it looked back in the 30s when this place opened. This was the shower facility. The floors were asphalt, and so the dirt that's currently in here was not here. There was a big plywood partition down the center bisecting this, and on that side, the men showered, and over on this side, this is where the women and girls would shower. 2 weeks ago, they started a seminar high school. About 1,500 students signed up. After a week in operation, however, our school was dissolved. The administration asked us to dissolve since, they said, there was no room in the grandstand, and it interfered with the camouflage network. So on the western end of the grandstand, they would weave camouflage nets for the war effort, which is completely ironic because here you have inmates, prisoners, people incarcerated against their will in violation of the Constitution, and here they are making camouflage nets for the war effort. I realized that if we were in any other country, we would be treated much worse than here. This is war and some innocent people must suffer. Whatever happens, I know that we will make the best of it. Our patriotism is being tested to the utmost, but I think we'll pull through smiling. Please write to me. Give my best regards to my teacher and student friends. Very sincerely yours, Ted Fujioka. From August 30th, 1942. Dear Mr. Lloyd, just a hurried note to let you know that we're leaving for the Heart Mountain Relocation Center situated near Cody, Wyoming. We're to leave on Tuesday, September 1st at about 8 a.m. I hear it's really cold up in that part of the country, but I'd rather freeze there than roast in Arizona. After 4 months, the family was out of here. They were transferred up to Heart Mountain, Wyoming. So Ted later decided to volunteer for the Army as soon as he graduated from Heart Mountain High, and he said, I know why I'm fighting. I'm going to fight for my family's place in this country. I'm going to fight for our children to come, the Sansei, which is my generation, the third generation. The Santa Anita Assembly Center way station was a 4 to 6 month introduction between your regular life of American freedom to the internment camp, the incarceration camp that would come later. Well, there may have been flower arranging classes and sports and stuff like that, but it wasn't summer camp. In the entire camp era, 7 men were gunned down. This memorial plaque here at Santa Anita tells the story. Roosevelt signed the order. It was rescinded in 1976 by President Gerald Ford. Those that lived through the history are pretty much gone now. People that were kids and young teens in camp are now elderly. So the story has to be kept on, and it has to be told by those who are descendants of those who lived the history. It has to be taught in history books. It's critical of America, but isn't that how we get better? This is Ted Fujioka on his last furlough to Heart Mountain. He was 18 when he volunteered. He was 19 when he was killed in action. He only made it to 19. A very short, very dramatic life. Very American life in many ways, but a very unusual American life.